Welcome to WOW, the Woman of the Week podcast series by Pharma Voice. This episode was made possible by a generous sponsorship from Diaceutics. For more information, visit diaceutics.com. In this episode, Taryn Grome, editor-in-chief of Pharma Voice magazine, meets with Sandy Solmon, CEO, Celavi.
Sandy, welcome to the Pharma Voice WOW podcast program.
Thank you for inviting me, Tara, and I'm really looking forward to talking. And I so enjoyed our talk at J.P. Morgan.
It was great to see you at J.P. Morgan, and I loved being able to hear a little bit about your story. And I'm thrilled to share your story with our listeners. Your background is really unique. You wear several hats. You lead a private emergency medical technology company, and you're the CEO, chief innovator, and founder of Sweet Street Desserts, which I understand is the world's largest manufacturer of frozen gourmet desserts. And you are in 70 countries with more than 700 employees. So let's talk about how your worlds converged. So you started Sweet Street Desserts first, and then you entered into the biosciences industry. Is that correct?
It is. Actually, I started Sweet Street 40 years ago. So we have been in existence for 40 years. Celavi, in the scheme of things, is relatively new, but I have been CEO for 13 years. And honestly, I'm still trying to assimilate if these two worlds have converged. But it's become clearer as I move out into speaking to the industry. I think what I've noticed is that as leaders, we always bring ourselves and our ways of thinking to the game. So I've always thought big picture and had an instinct or an intuition so strong that I had no choice to follow it. And be it Sweet Street or Celavi, big ideas I found need nurturing along the way. And I've always had the patience to see those ideas I believe in to fruition.
That's excellent. So tell me how you got involved with Celavi.
First of all, I'll start with the fact that when I was first introduced to Celavi Biosciences, I immediately saw the elegance. Actually, it was unnamed. When I first got introduced to the technology, I immediately saw the elegance and power of this disruptive stem cell technology. And I actually saw that we had a chance to change the paradigm of healing. I felt compelled, truly compelled to help out. I had no idea I would become angel investor, co-founder, and CEO. It actually was one of those opportunities that I talked about initially, and if you're awake, you grab hold of. So 13 years ago, I was asked to do a favor and help unwind patents recently filed by a brilliant scientist neurosurgeon. And why did they ask me? Because at Sweet Street, I owned 15 design copyrights and 3 patents, and they thought I'd know how to do it, functionally. And it was my stepfather who asked me, so how could I turn him down?
Family first, right?
Family first. He said it would be easy, but it wasn't. It took almost a year and a half. And by the time it was done, several $100,000 later, I ended up with patents, a scientist, and a lab needing a home. It was sort of a moment. And then I thought, how could I abandon this nascent and exciting technology? And thus I started supporting it financially and leading it. So it's sort of crazy when I think of it in retrospect.
I was going to say, those early days had to be really interesting.
They were, and I'll just add this. I understood there was a great need because I had just coincidentally watched my father-in-law die of Parkinson's disease. and it was horrible to watch. And I've described him as he was essentially encased in concrete, unable to speak or move at the end. And he was once a really voluble New York City dentist to celebrities like comedian Jerry Lewis. And it was a horrible death to watch.
So it's sort of a perfect storm for you. You had the expertise, you had the personal wherewithal, and you had the financial acumen to be able to bring this all together. It was the right time and the right place for you.
It was. And, you know, I've always sought to live a life with meaning, to have an impact. And I've done that from the start within my company and within Sweet Street. And I saw a paradigm shifting technology that would change, you know, how people were healed. And I felt that this is something that I needed to put my energy behind. You know, I sometimes tease, there goes the house in Aspen. And, you know, it's just how do we choose to spend our money and our resources to make a difference. And I honestly felt I had the right skills intuitively.
Let's talk about some of those skills and how you're translating running that multi-million-dollar company to Celavi. As you said, it's a nascent company. It's 13 years old now, but it has a groundbreaking technology. So how are you kind of using your global skills of running that bigger company and running this technology company in the life sciences?
First of all, most important is patience and, you know, patient leadership and sort of the vision to see where it might go. I've never had a turnaround attitude. You know, obviously 40 years running Sweet Street. But what I've learned that, you know, in these 13 years is that, yes, my skills are incredibly translatable. And one of the reasons is, you know, R&D and manufacturing are essentially the same, whether it's stem cells or our luscious chocolate cakes. At Sweet Street, I oversee a team of 15 QA managers. I follow the FDA guidelines, who inspects us. Also, you know, USDA, the Department of Agriculture, and SQF, an industry self-governing body. So we adhere to stacks of regulations from FSMA to SQF. We have, both industries have SOPs, GMPs, statistical process control. I directly manage our R&D team of 10 and have since the start of the company. And, you know, and that's the driver of our company's success as the innovators in our industry. So you can see it sounds very much like the biotech industry. And the other, you know, flip side is that food, gene, and cells, they can all harm if safety systems are in any way short-circuited. And so I understand through 40 years of manufacturing desserts with fresh dairy and eggs how true this is and what a responsibility we have to protect our consumers, our patients. And, you know, I don't want to keep on running on, but the other aspect that I learned at Sweet Street is that it is incredibly important to control one's own proprietary manufacturing system. And speed to market, confidence in the safety and quality of the end product, control of ramp-up, all those aspects I bring to bear at Celavi, which is why we invested in our own manufacturing capability early on.
It's interesting. So there are so many overlaps and similarities. So really, I don't want to minimize it, but it wasn't such a big leap then to think about how to run or organize Celavi, because you had already done it for so many years with another company.
Yeah, it took discovery, though, if you know what I mean. But, I didn't realize how similar it was. As, I started seeing how the complicated nature of dealing with the FDA was at FDA, and it was at Celavi, and the requirements. I was going through the same aspects at Sweet Street. We started out with the USDA, but over the past 7 years, we've been very much involved with the FDA and their facility inspections and their regulations. So they've sort of merged as the food industry has gotten far more regulated.
Sure, it makes total sense. You touched on it a second ago about R&D. I know at Sweet Street you talk about how that piece of the organization, R&D, catalyzes everything from production to market. How are you applying that same philosophy to Celavi?
I think it translates totally, but with a bit of a difference. In the time that since I started and founded Celavi with our CSO, Oleg Kopayov, who's the inventor of our technology, let's look at time frames. So Celavi, we worked for 15 years, or Oleg worked for 15 years to develop his stem cell technology that he originally applied for patents with. And that technology was to utilize undifferentiated and unmodified pluripotent stem cells, allogeneic stem cells, to be used for neurodegenerative diseases. And his goal all along was to create cells that had the biological intelligence to treat a disease in its entirety, but have no tumorigenicity or immune response after transplantation. So if you put the 15 years before I met him and you add 13 years post-treatment, post-establishment, where we've been testing and proving out that theory in preclinical and clinical trials, we created multiple cell banks utilizing species-specific cells as well. I don't know if you know, we also have a equine stem cell bank, and we've applied to the CVM for soft tissue injuries. So it's quite diverse in that respect. And at Sweet Street, at the same time, we've come out with 20-plus different product lines. We've got big cakes to non-GMO wrapped cookies and bars to vegan lines. It's very diverse. And hundreds of different products for chains we do business with. And I think being able to get so much done at Sweet Street probably supports the part of my personality that needs tangible results. And it allows me to apply that patience that I talked about in the beginning to see trials through and to wait for results that will be meaningful to investors and the public. For instance, we performed our clinical trial in Mexico City over 5 years ago. And we got some incredible early on results. But in talking to KOLs, we realized that because of the kind of technology and the concerns then we would have to get longer-term results to ensure that it stuck. And so 5 years later, our clinical trial in Mexico City with the University of Mexico has shown that 4 out of the 7 patients have shown great promise in terms of the restorative treatment actually restoring function and turning back some of the ravages of the disease. So, yes.
That's fascinating. Wow.
Yes. And, of course, it's been safe for all 7 people. And a 5th has stabilized and seen no deterioration pre-implementation. So the results, of course, it's a very small population, but once I felt assured, and I'm a product person, so I'm used to producing a product that works towards a function. So once I felt assured that we had a product, I felt really comfortable going out to the market and talking to people.
That's awesome. And those results have to feel so affirming that you all are on the right track.
Honestly, it was one of, certainly one of the great moments for me when we saw at 5 years that 2 patients in particular had gotten far better. It seemed, was there a deterioration? Where was this treatment going? Had they gotten far better at the beginning, and was it now declining? And no, it took a big move forward, and that was exciting to me to show the possibilities. Obviously, this is an early stage, and it's a study with 7 humans, but it's exciting to acknowledge that the cells possibly are working the way we expected. With those billions of connections that have to be made in our complex brains, years later, more connections clearly seen to be occurring. So yes, it's very exciting.
That's awesome. Just to tap back into your food services experience, it's a very competitive game. I think everybody can understand that. And after almost 40 years, you're still at the top of your game. So what do you attribute your success to? What makes you so successful?
Yeah, well, thank you. At this point in time, I'd say it's all about the strength of our culture of collaboration, our brand that incorporates deliciousness and product innovation as key attributes, but most important, our team. I have an amazing complementary and expert team around me. Many of us have been together over decades, and all of us believe in what the Sweet Street brand stands for, and work collaboratively each and every day to move quickly in the marketplace to ensure we are first to market with innovative and delicious new product lines. We're sort of like a wheel, and the spokes go out, and it turns right at the right moments. And we keep on expanding our brand based on what the marketplace. So when we started out, it was desserts, sit down, a slice of cake or pie, and now we've incorporated savories and grab and go and small bites. So we keep on expanding the brand to various other day parts, and I see that possibility existing for our stem cells because Celavi's cells are part of a platform technology. It's the same cell and the same manufacturing system, regardless of the indication. For instance, the same kind of cell for soft tissue injuries. And so we believe we have a really broad canvas to paint on with these cells.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I hear how everything, is just relatable from, switching seamlessly between one hat and another hat. And, at the same time, I'd love to hear about your leadership style. You're just very modest about the culture and the team, but how is it that you lead a global operation and then translating that to a smaller team over at Celavi? What is it about your leadership style that, incites such success and loyalty?
I'm an intuitive, instinctive leader. So it's sometimes people say, "You're a witch, Sandy." I'm able to see opportunities that are less than obvious, and I always have been, to support our direction. And at Celavi, even though I'm not a trained neuroscientist, it could be a novel direction in research. I sort of see it and suggest that we do something, and it provides a clue or a substantiation of some underlying principle we have. And it builds trust. I always lead with purpose and mission. I always come back. What's our goal? How do we stay focused? I'm also a collaborator. Even though I can make a decision, and I do not have a hard time in making the decision at the end, I coalesce the team to decide strategy or resolve problems. I ask a lot of questions of a lot of people, always. But at the end, I know how to make a decision. And I can really rally a team around because I work as hard as anybody else or everybody else. Let me see what else. Although big picture, I'm very granular on a day-to-day basis. And I expect managers to know the details to control for those that are really crucial to success. So I can become a subject matter expert, although briefly, because I like to swim in and out of particular areas of expertise as needed. And you know what it's like when you keep too much in your brain all simultaneously. Does that answer it?
Yes, that's great. Absolutely. I love the swim in and out of subject matter expertise. I think that's it's a testament to leadership, that curiosity and that willingness to learn and yet not have to get into the weeds. So it's that agility and flexibility that allows you to really oversee a multitude of different areas of operation. And at the same time, how do you keep your teams motivated? Specifically in the life sciences industry, where so much of research and discovery is fraught with disappointment and non-positive results, but yet the work still has to continue on. How do you keep your teams uplifted?
Well, when we're in the midst of the greatest existential moments at Sweet Street or Celavi, I am always at my calmest, strongest, and most strategic. So, honestly, I rarely look back. I work to find solutions. I never blame. And I believe it builds confidence among team members to stretch, to take risks. That trust, can particularly be harvested when the stars align and opportunities present themselves. So it's creating a moment that I will always be there to help find a way at a difficult moment. And I'm great at finding new ideas and resources to develop our team and keep us growing. So although I'm not an expert in the biosciences. I think I'm a good learner. And, of course, I brought Lavoie Group in to help me understand about getting out into the financial world and, introducing me to you, people like you, Taryn, who want to help nascent businesses and leaders like myself. So finding those new ideas and resources help the team keep growing. And as you know, and you've talked to enough scientists by now, they tend to get very cloistered and tunnel vision. So I'm there to follow through. I'm willing to spend the money to research a good idea. And I know how to get in the weeds with people to solve a problem. And as I said earlier, I know how to quickly back out and let them run with it. So,
excellent. At the risk of making you look back, even though you said that's something that you don't tend to do, if you had to think about a piece of advice you would give to your younger self, what would that be?
Oh, it's really simple. Prioritize more time to my personal life.
Great advice for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know how important it is till later on when you have to pull together pieces. So, and I do that now.
So better late than never, right?
Better late than never, yes.
Excellent. And then finally, we ask all of our podcasters to describe a wow moment of your career, a pivotal moment that maybe changed the trajectory of your career or something that has left you with a lasting feeling or sentiment. Can you pick out one wow moment from your very successful career?
Oh, it's so hard for me to pick out one moment. I could give you a few. When I won the Innovator Award at the Cornell Business School, and in specific at the hospitality school. And I was the first woman to win this award. And it's given out at a dinner. 800 people in the industry attend. It was one of those moments where I really didn't want to even begin to accept the award originally. And it took me some time to understand that, yes, what we created at Sweet Street, what I created, was deserving. And it helped me explain, not just to myself, but then share with the world what my leadership style was and how crucial it was to the success, not just of the company, but of the individuals around me. And it was a thrilling moment to be able to speak and see myself as a leader and a mentor for others. So yes, I enjoyed it. And a parallel moment was when we received our 5-year follow-up in our human PD trial. I just felt that calm, pure thrill of staying with something that would make a huge difference in the world and seeing the clue that it could come to fruition. So those are two great moments.
Those are two great moments, and I love that you chose one from each piece of your life. So thank you so much for sharing those personal insights with us. And thank you so much for sharing your story. It's quite unusual, and I find it to be inspirational in how you can have a foot in two different worlds, yet you're making such a significant impact in both. And that's not typical. So really fascinating to speak with you, and thank you so much for being part of our WOW podcast program.
Oh, thank you so much, Taryn. I really appreciate what you're doing, not just interviewing myself, but what you're doing for women and demonstrating our leadership abilities. So thanks again.
Well, it's our pleasure, and I feel like it's part of our duty as a woman-owned business. So thank you so much for being part of the program and for sharing your insights.
Thank you for listening to this episode of WOW, the Woman of the Week podcast series. And thanks again to Diaceutics for sponsoring this episode. For more information, visit diaceutics.com. And don't forget to check out our other episodes at pharmavoice.com/wow. This 2020 program is copyrighted by PharmaLinks LLC.